Some say the world as we know it will end in fire, and some say in ice, but the commonality between both of those is that there's agreement that at some point, with all this tension ratcheting up, it will end. In this video, I want to talk about the type of information you want to make sure that you have before that happens.
Better believe in your mind, 'cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything.
Hey everybody, this is Praxis. One of the great things about being a prepper is that when there are events that unfold around us in the world, the types of events that are really knocking people sideways, sweeping people's legs out from under them, very frequently those types of events hardly ruffle our feathers at all, barely send a ripple through your life. The reason for that is that instead of waiting until the last minute to react to things, we've been kind of amortizing our efforts over a long period of time, so you don't get that sucker punch all at once. It's been kind of muted over a period of months or years, and that makes it a lot more comfortable to live through. But that said, there are events that unfold in the world that even have preppers kind of turning over their shoulders, looking backwards and wondering whether they've crossed all their T's and dotted all their I's, questioning whether you're really ready for this. And what's unfolded in Eastern Europe over the past several days related to Russia's nuclear arsenal or the delivery mechanisms for it being targeted is one of those events that I think is really a ratcheting up that makes me concerned about where things are headed, and I'm questioning myself, am I really ready for what's coming? Now, I think ultimately the big answer to that question is no. Nobody's really completely ready for what's coming, but as a prepper you try to just do the best that you can. And one thing that I've been really happy that I've finished in the past couple of weeks was a project that I've been working on for a number of years, and this project relates to the types of information that I want to have access to in an emergency situation where I may not have access to the internet or other means of information disbursement at my fingertips, the way that we've all kind of gotten used to. There's all sorts of information here on YouTube and on the internet, and I think it kind of falls into two different categories. One category is the type of information that if you expose yourself to it once, you kind of get the idea of it, you get the gist of it, you kind of get the mindset that information is conveying to you, and it's not the kind of thing where you have to kind of keep going back to that source. The other type of information is very specific, data-specific information. I'll give you an example. One great channel here on YouTube related to prepping and preparedness is a channel called Hoople's Cat. Hoople's Cat is a retired nurse living up in Canada. He does really great content in terms of health and preparedness, and it's just an excellent channel. And he did a video perhaps maybe 2 years ago at this point, about dealing with a radiological emergency where you have radiation exposure in yourself, and he did a whole video about all the different types of medications or different materials that you can use to try to either treat the symptoms of radiation exposure or to try to flush radioactive material out of your body. Super helpful video. And if going into the next series of months, have to know any of that information, having watched that video a couple of years ago, it won't help me at all. It won't help me in the least, because all the stuff in that video is the type of stuff that you're never going to remember. You may remember that there was something that you could take for something or other, but when you're actually faced with a situation, it's not going to help you at all. Now, this is not a critique of that video. It's a wonderful video, and it prompted me to do something which I've been doing over the past couple of years, which is to gather all this information and get it into a hard copy form for myself, so that if I'm facing a situation like that and the internet isn't available to me, and that very well may be the case. If we were in some kind of a nuclear exchange, it'd be very likely for a lot of these information networks to be taken down, and it's entirely likely that I would not be able to re-reference that video. So in that video that he put up there, he put reference materials for all of his sources. I downloaded all that stuff and I set that aside. And I did that for a number of different things, for how to purify water. For, people will always say, make sure you have a battery-powered radio on hand so that you could listen for emergency broadcasts. If there was some kind of a radiation emergency event, you would want to be listening to that to know if there's something upwind from you that might have happened, so if there might be something headed your way. But just having a battery-powered radio doesn't solve your problem, because you need to know where to tune that to. There are hundreds and hundreds of frequencies where you could go. There's AM, there's FM, there's shortwave. You really need to know where to tune into, and these emergency broadcasts may not be going constantly. It might be something where they're being released now, and then it's just static for a while, and you could just scrub right past the station, not realizing that you just went past it. So taking note of emergency broadcast frequencies is another thing that I did, and I compiled all of this stuff. And for the past couple of years, I've just had a bunch of paper printed out lists kicking around. And it's really important that they're on paper and it's not just on your computer, because if you can't run your computer for some reason, maybe you don't have a backup power system and the grid is down, or maybe there's been an electromagnetic pulse and a lot of stuff has been fried. Having actual paper copies of things is super, super critical. So I sat on those lists for a number of years, and then I started kind of compiling them into a document, essentially making a book for myself that had all the types of information that I was never going to be able to commit to memory. It's the kind of stuff that that information is out there, but you're never going to memorize it. Here's another example: the expiration dates on drugs. We all have heard here in the prepping community that the expiration date on a bottle of any given medicine may or may not actually be its real expiration date. Some medications, they are not safe to take pretty shortly after the expiration date. I believe aspirin is one of those where it can actually go toxic, but there are other medications that they're good 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years past expiration. It's really important to know which ones are the ones that actually are good past expiration. Now, I was never going to be able to memorize all that, and in a pinch, when I want to use a medication, even if the internet was still up, I don't want to be in a situation where I need to use a medication, but I have to schedule in 2 hours of kind of going back online and searching through all the sources and kind of figuring out what's the real deal on how good this old medication is. So I started compiling all that stuff, and I ultimately turned it into a book. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys in this video, is I've created a book that has all that types of information, the type of information that, no sane person is ever going to memorize. And there's just so much of it out there. But in a pinch situation, if you're trying to purify water and you forget, well, how much bleach do I use to purify this water before I, put too much in and I make it, problematic because there's too much bleach, or I haven't put enough bleach into it. All these types of, detail-oriented things. I created a whole book, and I ordered one for myself. I went through a self-publishing company where you can just order prints, and I put a link down in the description below if you would like to order your own copy. Now, I don't have mine yet. It comes tomorrow, and I know I'm going to be resting a lot easier once I actually have that book in hand, and it is just full of all that kind of stuff. Down in the description, I put a link to it, and even if you don't want to order that book for yourself, in the description of the video, there's a link to where you can order it, and I made it so people could preview that book, and you can look right through the table of contents, and you can see all the things that I made sure that I had included in that book for myself. So if you independently want to just kind of scrub around the internet and get all this kind of information, it'll at least kind of jog your mind about critical things that you probably would want to include in your own book. Here's another one that I just added recently, and it was foreign languages. If you were traveling through an area where maybe you speak English, but you don't speak other languages, and you're moving through an area where other languages are spoken, it might be nice to be able to have just some basic ability to say things like "I need," or "please help," or "I need a doctor," or "water," or "food," or ask for directions or something like that. So I created a whole section in the book that's just for, I think I did like 7 different, the 7 like top languages on the planet that are most commonly spoken, and I just did like simple translation. So if I was ever traveling and I have this book with me, and I've made the book really small so it can fit just into a backpack, I could at least have some basic rudimentary ability to communicate with different people. So it's all those types of things that I threw in there. So whether you want to order your own copy of the book that I created, and it's quite a handsome book. In my real life, I work as a graphic designer and a layout artist, so I tried to make the book very attractive and appealing. But even if you don't want to order the book for yourself, just check out the table of contents and look through it, and it'll jog your mind on all the different things that you really ought to have set aside for yourself, so that you can track these things down online and at least print out some paper copies, because at some point the tension can only ratchet up so much before something breaks. And I think a lot of us have been kind of maybe a little bit surprised at how far things have been able to be ratcheted up without things, the entire system completely, cracking for the world. But it's my firm belief that you can only ratchet up the tension so far before that snap happens. And, it's events like what have happened over the past several days over in Eastern Europe. It's events like that that are going to be that tipping point. This may be it, this may not be it, but it's going to be an event like that where things are going to snap afterwards. And in retrospect, we're all going to look back and we're going to think, well, of course, of course things couldn't just keep going, with the tension going up and up and up without there being a breaking point. Retrospectively, we'll look back at it that way. But in the moment, you almost kind of tend to, sit into kind of like or settle into a bit of a normalcy bias, because we've just seen things, happen and compound and compound and compound. And, the system has been able to kind of stumble through it. But again, it's my firm belief that won't go on forever. Historically, if you look back through the history of human civilizations, they can never take an infinite amount of pressure being applied to them. Eventually, there is a snapping point. History has always borne that out. I don't think that we are in a post-historical period where we, we're a completely different animal, and all the lessons of history of the past, we can just abandon them because, we're completely unique and none of that applies to us anymore. We're still the same human beings that we have been for the past hundreds and thousands of years. I didn't mean hundreds of thousands, I meant hundreds or thousands of years. And, the system can only take so much. As to how much it can take, I guess we're going to find out. I think we will find out, because there seems to be no appetite at this moment for bringing down the tension. That's it. I hope you found this video helpful. If you want to check out that book, link down in the description below. It does, because it's self-publishing, it's not the kind of thing where you order it and then it comes like in 2 days, because they have to print it out and everything. It takes a week and change at least for the book to get out. So if you would like to get a copy of it, make sure you put in your order early while the delivery trucks are still running. That's it. Thanks for watching. Hey YouTube preppers, if you enjoyed this video, here's another that I think you might like. But before you click on it, I wanted to take a moment to thank all the people you see on the right-hand side of your screen. They help to support all the work that I do here over at patreon.com. If you'd like to join them and get your name added to the list, the link's below.